Episode of Trap Talk brought to you by Krieghoff.
The number one gun in the industry. See,
I think it is. I mean, I'm only the team manager, but Ricky, I mean, he shoots that thing pretty well. He just shot it well in Tucson, I'll say that much.
Yeah, it was working. It was grinding some targets.
So today we had the pleasure of speaking with Derrick Mein.
Yep.
You know, Ricky, what were some highlights in your mind, what we spoke about with Derrick?
You know, Derrick, in my opinion, is, like I said in the show, one of the best all-around shooters in the country. And right now he's focused solely on bunker trap. And, you know, he just come up winning the CAT games and in the Dominican Republic. And, you know, there's a lot of good info in this. You know, one of the things, eyes and instinct.
Eyes and instincts. So that's one that I took away. There's some little pieces of gold in here for sure. He's so focused on making the next Olympic position and going to that Olympics that's coming up. So, you know, I think he's our guy. He's got our vote for sure. But you know, with that being said,
let's get to the show.
Well, Rick, before we get to the show, we got to take a minute and thank all of our sponsors because we wouldn't be here without them. This show is brought to you by Krieghoff.
Yes, Krieghoff. I've shot one since about 2006. Best gun out there. Balance, customer service, the people at Krieghoff, top notch.
Everything you need to know about a good shotgun, that's for sure.
Yes.
We got to thank Wenig Stockworks, custom gun stocks in Lincoln, Missouri. Nice hat, Ricky.
Yeah, I love my Wenig. I broke hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hundreds with my Wenig stock. But in all seriousness, get a hold of Bobby, Luke, Bill. Get yourself a stock made. It'll change your shooting.
I want to say thank you to Remington. They've supported the show since day one, and they've supported me for a very long time. Made All-America team shooting Nitros and STSs for many years. And we also got to thank Game Masters. If you're looking for a gun, Ricky, you can help them out.
Yep. Get a hold of me at Game Masters 2. Call me, text me, email me, send a smoke signal. I can get you any gun out there. We carry about every brand available. In the trap, skeet, sporting clays, even carry some hunting guns, some hunting rifles, whatever you need. I'm
going to have to try that smoke signal. I haven't communicated with you that way yet, but that sounds like fun.
You like that?
So for the next sponsor, Shot Tracker, we just seen them at Vegas at the SHOT Show, and they gave us some great insight on the product.
Yep, it's like having a coach on the end of your barrel. They got some new updates coming out that'll really change the game with the Shot Tracker, make it a little easier to set up. So get a hold of them, get yourself a Shot Tracker, and it'll help you.
Want to thank you to Shotguns West, Ryan Castani, for being our Pillas sponsor. Where do you get your Pillas from? They're doing a great job. They've got the new frames out. They're sleek, they're modern, and they look fantastic. Also, really excited about this year's new sponsor, Outlaw Engineering.
Yeah, Outlaw Engineering. It's owned by Randy Freston II, R2. I've known him and his family for years. His dad's past president of the ATA. He does a lot of engineering in the oil field business. So get a hold of him for all his engineering needs you got, and he can hook you up.
Big thank you to White Flyer, making a great target and a great product. We've been smoking those all over the country, right, Ricky?
Yeah, they came out with a new Eco Flyer this year. So hopefully we can get to shoot them at some shoots. I know we did a lot of testing on them, and they are an awesome target. So a little alternative to the pitch target. So
looking forward to trying that out. Another thing that I'm looking forward to seeing more of is SOS Clays.
Yeah, the SOS Clays software owned by Greg Pink, doing an awesome job. He's taken over the trap shooting world with his software. It's top notch. You know, get a hold of him for any needs you have in the shotgun world.
And last but not least, we got gun and trophy insurance. Rick, you got to tell me about that.
Yeah, you can get a hold of Cole or Larry Cushman, family-owned business, and they take care of all my needs on gun insurance. They also offer trophy insurance for all your wildlife trophies to insure them too, but top-notch. Get a hold of them, and they can hook you up. Literally, it's simple. Get online, gunandtrophy.com. You can get a policy going in, I think, less than about 10 minutes. Very reasonably priced.
That's awesome. Thank you to all the sponsors. And with that being said, let's get on to the show. With that being said, Trap Talk listeners, if you love everything about Trap Talk, please subscribe to our page. Also, throw some likes on the videos that you enjoy. It really means the world to us.
Yeah, comment on each episode. We read them. We respond to them. With that, let's get to the show.
Welcome to Season 2 of Trap Talk.
Brought to you by Krieghoff.
And we have the honor and pleasure of interviewing the one and only Derrick Mein. Welcome to the show, Derrick.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Now,
Absolutely.
I know Derrick has a reputation that most people have heard about because he's won pretty much everything there is to win with a shotgun. But for the listeners that might not know who Derrick is, Ricky, would you mind introducing our guest?
Yeah, it's a long list, so I kind of narrow it down a little bit. We'll talk about a lot of the stuff, but Derrick started shooting in 1994, sporting clays, with his dad, Rick Mein, who his father is a legend in himself too in shooting sports. He shot some ATA targets in around mid-90s, 96, 97, but has always just shot mainly sporting until, well, I guess college. He was the 2008 ACUI champion.
Yeah.
Set the record for the highest score of the 400 then, which was trap skeet, wobble trap, and international skeet. So they didn't have sporting clays back then. He's been on the sporting clays All-America team 15 times. He's won 14 Kansas State sporting clays titles. Okay, now let's fast forward. He's shooting on the Olympic team since 2020. Is that right, Derrick?
Yeah, I made my first travel team in 19 and then made the Olympic team in 2020.
20. And then in 2020, he also won 5 of the 8 overalls in sporting tournaments. He also was AAA champion at the Grand American Trap Shoot when we held it in Missouri during COVID. And then he also was runner-up at the World Skeet Shoot and the World 28 Gauge Championship. So that's just all in 20. I will throw in there that Zach did beat him in the shoot-off for that, but Zach's supposed to. So I'll give Zach props. He's a trap shooter. So, but then you won the world.
I can verify he won the AAA at the Grand. I was like, who's this Derrick Mein guy? And I actually knew who he was, but I'm like, he was way up there on the board.
But
yeah, Zach, you should be thankful because I missed my last handicap target.
I know. I heard all about it.
See? It happens. What Ricky's told me a long time ago is it doesn't matter if it's your first target, your last target. A miss is a miss. I mean, hey, I'm happy that you held it together that long.
Me too. I ran the 200 singles and then I promptly walked out and missed the first target out in the shoot off.
I remember I was standing there watching because everybody's like,
okay. I didn't mean to interrupt that accolade run. So keep
that's
going,
okay.
Ricky.
He also in 2020 won the World English Sporting.
That was 2019.
Or 2019, sorry. And then you won the World English. You've won the World Feed Task. Okay. Now, just recently, as of 2 days ago, you won the Cat Games in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, that's the Championship of the Americas.
And then
in 2022 was a real big one.
That's when you won the World ISSF World Trap Championships.
So, yeah, that was a real big one. I was the first American since 1966 to win that event.
Wow.
And so not only did I win the World Championship, but that also got us as a country a quota spot to compete in the Paris Olympics in men's trap. So that was a big deal.
Well, yeah, that is a huge accolade. So Derrick has won about everything there is to win in all disciplines, and he's considered one of the, if not the best world all-around champion clay target shooter. So we'd like to welcome you to the show. I know it's a trap show. We do talk about sporting because I shoot sporting. Zach does too occasionally.
I attempt it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I attempt sporting. You're probably not going to see me shoot off for AAA champion at the World Sporting Clay Shoot anytime soon, like you come and shoot the trap. So I got to give you that. But so Derrick, you're probably one of the most qualified, if not the most qualified shotgun shooters all around that we've ever had on the show. And I know you're a wealth of knowledge. We're going to get into a lot of things, but I want to circle back to that 2022 World Championship that you said. You said you were the first person to win since 68 from the USA?
66.
66, yeah.
66. So where was that?
6 years.
Where was that located?
It was in Croatia.
Okay. So that is an international trap shoot that happens every how many years?
That one happens once every 4 years.
4 years.
Okay.
That was the World Shooting Championships. Actually, I take that back. That was the World Shotgun Championships, which happens once every 4 years. And then this past year in Azerbaijan, they had the World Shooting Championships, which encompasses rifle, pistol, and shotgun all at the same venue.
So to win that, you said it solidifies a quota spot for USA to go to the Olympics that year.
Yes. Yep.
So since
for this upcoming Olympics,
For the upcoming Olympics, since it's once every 4 years.
Every 4 years. So somewhere in that zone, for the listeners that have never heard about this stuff, somewhere between the last Olympics and the next Olympics, we've got to secure a spot. Otherwise, we don't get to go. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's, I think, 30 quota places available. And as a country, you can only get 2 in each event. Okay.
So what determines getting those 2 quota spots per country? Like is it on a score? Is it on winning? Is it at certain shoots? Or like what's involved with that?
So it's at certain shoots. It usually starts with that World Shotgun Championships, which is kind of the mid-year between Olympic Games. So like the next quad, that will be in 2026. That World Championship will be the first place they give out quotas.
I see.
And the way they do it is the way they've done it the last couple of quads is the top 4 finishers at that World Championships all get a quota. Now, something that they changed this go around is in one particular event. So say my teammate Will Hinton, say he had finished second at that World Championship in Croatia, we still only would have gotten 1 quota place. They only let a country get 1 in each event at a match.
See.
So we would have to win it at two different matches. So they offered quotas this last go round at the 2 World Championships, and then there's 2 Continental Championships and the Pan American Games that we could win quota places at. And then they've got like the European Championships. They've got a couple of those. The Asian Championships, the Oceanics. Like they break the world down into regions and give a couple quota places to each of those spots, areas to have won.
Okay.
So with your spots, does USA have 2 spots already solidified?
Yes. So in 2022, Will Hinton won the Continental Championships in Peru, and that got us our 2nd quota place for men's trap, which actually made it nice because then we could go everywhere that we qualified for, and we didn't have to bow out to give someone else a chance to win a quota.
Chance to win. So with that, so you already have the 2 spots. Now, this doesn't solidify you and Will going.
No.
So how does that format work? Is that going? I know you got the qualifier here next week down at Tucson.
Yeah. So that match will be 250 targets plus a final, the ISSF elimination final. And the winner of that will get 3 bonus points. Second gets 2, and third gets 1. So that match total score will be added to our previous match that we had last year at our national championships in Hillsdale, Michigan, which was the same format, 250 targets plus that final, which I was fortunate enough. I won that match. And so I left there with a 4 target lead. And then at the World Championships this past summer, I finished 5th, which got me an extra 2 bonus targets added to my total for that.
You just gaining targets.
Yeah, if I could have shot a little better in that final over there in Azerbaijan, I could have gained as many as 6 points. But it it was tough conditions, and the other guys shot better. So
who's in second place right
now? Seth Inman. A lot of guys, Missouri guys, know Seth from his days shooting ATA. He's on the Army Marksmanship unit. Pretty much it's me, and then the next 4 or 5 after me are all in the Army Marksmanship unit. I think Will's probably the farthest back of any of them. I think he's 6 or 7 targets behind Seth. So he's got a tough road to make the Olympic team after winning that quota. But he's certainly capable of doing it too.
Oh yeah, everybody is. So go ahead.
Yeah, so it's not dead yet. Nobody knows. I mean, even with your lead, you don't necessarily know yet. When will you officially know if you're going to be going to the Olympics?
Probably about 5 o'clock, March 16th. That's when the finals will be over.
So can we watch this live?
To speak to how volatile our game is, so for the 2020 Olympic Games, I went into the second selection match, which was in Tucson as well, with a 7-target lead. Through 126 targets, I was back to even with second and third place.
Oh wow!
From that point on, I won the rest of the match by 11 targets. So you can go up and down really quick, especially a place like Tucson, where you guys know all too well that in the springtime it is a tough place to shoot trap.
We just got back from there, and it was it was a little it was gaming.
It sounds like your 396, Ricky, was pretty impressive, except for you missed 2 single targets.
I did. Hey, standing right next to Zach, we were slaying away, and boom, one to fly away, boom, one, and I'm like, okay, we got to keep this together. So it was, and Zach can contest to it. I mean, it was, and it is Tucson in the springtime. You never know what weather you're getting.
The background is brown.
Yep, and it's tough. I mean, I was there at the first World Cup that was held at Tucson. I flew in for that, and I remember they painted the backdrop green.
Yeah.
Now, are they going to do that this year or no?
I doubt it. That costs quite a bit of money, and I doubt they do that. So they'll leave it natural.
El natural.
Well, I can tell you, I did a lot of lessons down at the practice fields before the spring grand and even during. You can ask Zach. We were doing a lot of stuff down there, and I did a ton of lessons. There's a lot of broken targets laying out there, so they need to go through and grade them.
Usually they go through and they'll drag out in front of the bunkers for us, which helps a lot. But they're also supposed to get looks like maybe a couple inches of rain this week, so hopefully that'll green up that mountain. Which for the bunker makes a big difference. We're shooting an all orange target.
It is showing. So we switched targets to an orange dome from the New York style, which is the 3/4. And you can ask Zach. We were shooting the singles was it Zach on Thursday or Wednesday?
Yeah.
Whenever we were getting one of each. So like Justin would shoot, and he'd get an all orange, 3/4, which looks all orange. You can barely see that black, rim. And then I'd get an orange dome, and then Zach would get it all orange. We're like, what the heck is going on here? So,
I think
which one could you see better?
I like the 3/4.
Yeah, definitely the 3/4 looking back at it. I mean, normally I'm going to say that I like that orange dome target. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say that orange dome is what I want to see everywhere I shoot. But I mean, in this particular situation, mixing them into the trap, which was totally an accident and a not correct deal. When one came out, it was like the lights was on it, and when the other one came out, it was like, what's that little tinny little pill coming out of the house? Yeah, it scared me because I got one and I shot it and it was the big orange thing and I blew it up. But then the next time I got the small one and I had to kind of what the hell just happened? And then I had to wait on those small ones. But it is what it is.
Just imagine speeding those things up to about 65 mile an hour.
Well, they had the bunkers open throughout the shoot, which I get it. that they did a few times, but there's all these people wanting to shoot practice. So it's like, hey, why don't you just close them down for right now? Because it wasn't even guys coming out to, practice for the match. It was just guys shooting, screwing around. But I watched some of the targets and I was like, yeah, you could see them. But yeah, that background this time of year. Now, when I was back there in November, it's a whole different world.
Whole different world. Like
Exactly.
In 2018 when we shot the that world all around out there.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I was out 2 weeks prior to that. So the world all around was the end of March. And then we had a selection match the first week of March. And I think at 230 or 231 out of 250 won that selection match. I think I shot it in the low 220s. And then I went back for the world all around and I shot 100 bunker targets and broke 98 of them. And it was a night and day different. And it was completely the exact same settings that we'd shot the selection match on.
Selection match.
I see.
And it just, that little bit later in the year with the light and the background down there makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah. Well, now how many shooters will be there next week?
I think there'll probably be 150 roughly, counting men's and women's in trap. Okay. And then they're also running the skeet selection match at the same time. So there'll be another 75 or 80 shooting skeet.
Maybe at that. So during that, will any of it be aired live?
I doubt it. No, I don't think USA Shooting has the capabilities.
You need to tell them, listen, we need to be showing some live stuff. Because I remember when you won the World Championship, all that ISSF is run live. And, listen, I grew up, I shot bunker years and years ago, and it was fun. Just wasn't my forte back then. They frowned on money winning, and which was odd at the time. Because I made a comment one year. I said, you're frowning on people winning money, but Michael Jordan plays for Team USA. He's only making $20 million a year.
Yeah.
So, but no, it is cool to watch that stuff live. But I know we can track it. They'll post the results and stuff.
Yeah. USA Shooting should be pretty good about posting the results, at least at the end of the day, and then they'll have them posted there at the club throughout the day. But
throughout the day and stuff. Well, we won't be down there. We'll be down in Florida at the Silver Dollar shooting the Southern Grand next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Hello, Trap Talk listeners. Zach Nannini here, and I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Remington. And today, I would like to go into what shells I use when I'm training and when I'm shooting tournaments. First of all, we start with the Gun Club. This is a great shell. I shoot an 1145 ounce and 1/8, and this is what I shoot for singles and both shots of doubles. The only reason I don't shoot this in tournaments is because I like a little bit of a harder shot, a little bit of a harder break, but it works great, and it's the same speed as this STS shell. So this STS shell, a little bit harder shot, figure 8 wad column, smokes the targets a little bit harder. Also, I shoot for singles and doubles, both shots. And then when I go to the back fence and I want to put the smoke on them, I bring out the Nitro 27 ounce and 8, 7.5. It's a 1235 shell, blast the targets, works really well. I hope these shells work for you, and I want to thank Remington for supporting Trap Talk.
I do want to circle back to the volatility comment that you made earlier, Derrick. You said that, that range, you were up 7, you went to even, and then you were up 11 at the end of the tournament. When you said target, are they physically counting the targets that you hit in each tournament, or how do you, I mean, is it most broken out of all the events you shoot, or how does that work?
So the Olympic trials is the combined 500 targets of the 2 matches.
Yep.
Last go around, we shot the top 6 out of that 500, shot an additional 50 target single barrel. We called it a super final. Everybody, instead of eliminating throughout the final like they do at the ISSF, all 6 competitors shot a full 50 target single barrel, and that was added to the 500. This go around, they're just taking the bonus points for winning the final and adding that to the total. So
I see. So the targets, you get bonus targets basically on top of however many you hit. So if everybody hits the same amount of targets and then you win the finals, you're going to win because of those bonus targets.
Yeah. It's basically like they give you 3 extra hits.
Zach wants that in the ATA.
Oh, I'm sure
I need some style points.
Well, then we're taking negative out of that now. That is interesting how they do that now. And I don't know. I mean, I've been shooting a long time, so have you, but I remember back in the day, it was like, okay, your end score, that's your end score, that's what you went in. Where now,
Right.
every final, ISSF included, whatever your score is, you could be a 125 out of 125 and say, I break a 120 out of 125 and I'm sixth place. We go in, we're even except for the bib numbers.
Yes.
And
Yep.
I get
Yeah.
that. And if you tie, then the bib number does qual. But
Yeah.
really,
Yep.
target. I mean, I'm thinking, hey man, if I beat your butt by 5 targets, I want 5 targets.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It definitely would make a difference if you still carried your qualification score into the finals.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, it does help create some drama by starting back at zero. You get a more dramatic finish in the final,
Oh yeah.
with people getting eliminated, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do for the Olympics is create a more exciting finish that can be hopefully garner more television coverage with the
Yeah.
Olympic Games.
No,
Yeah, you make
absolutely.
the final. You make the final, and then it's all you could be the last dog place and win the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
Yep, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Underdog story, baby. Hey, we love an underdog story.
So Derek,
Everybody does.
that's one of the things is so you shot sporting, you've won about everything you can to win. You've won nationals twice. We failed to give that accolade too, but you're a two-time national champion in sporting. What got you? I know you shot college and stuff, but what made you want to shoot bunker?
So I shot a little bit in college,
Yeah.
and for the '08 Olympics that were in Beijing,
Hmm.
I went out to Colorado Springs for the first selection match of that Olympic trials, and I shot a 241 out of 250. Ended up in a three-way tie for fourth at that match, and then that winter, weather wasn't good. I didn't with being in school. I didn't have much opportunity to go practice. I basically had one day of practice between the two selection matches. Went down and I missed the final by 2 targets, I think, for that Olympic team. And back then, it was 25 target final added to your total.
Total.
And so I was only 4 targets behind second place before that final started. So I was right there without really putting in the effort that I should have been putting in. I was too young and dumb to realize how much importance there was on making the Olympic team.
Yeah.
And so I kind of always had that in the back of my mind that, I can do that. I just need to find a place and situation where it works, where I can work at it. And after 2016, when we didn't get anybody in men's trap into the Olympics for the second Olympic Games in a row,
Yeah.
just kind of decided that was the right time to kind of step back in and pursue it. And you know, and you guys know Jay Waldron.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he's kind of the reason that I really stuck with it when I came back and gave it a try, because he was willing to work with my Sporting Clay schedule in scheduling their matches, so it was feasible for me to do both. And and I feel like it gave me the opportunity to kind of change the old narrative within the trap side of USA Shooting. There was always a history of people backstabbing each other and not supporting each other, and I kind of thought, you know what, that's what's held them down. So why not come in and try and change that, and if nothing else, try and help the younger generation coming in and help make them better, and hopefully push the guys that were shooting pretty good at that time and make them better maybe.
Yeah.
Was kind of the initial goal, and if I worked out where I made the Olympic team, that was great. But now looking back, I feel like I've accomplished some of that. I made the Olympic team, which
Mhm.
propelled me into wanting to do it more,
Yeah.
because I didn't perform all that well in Tokyo. Although I shot a score that would have made the final in 3 of the previous 6 Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Just with no crowd because of COVID, it was the highest scores ever shot in the Olympic Games.
Well,
the distraction side, right? I mean, you didn't have that
Yeah.
no crowd. It was perfectly quiet, right?
And I've been a guy that I've always fed off a crowd. When you get excitement going, like just Sunday shooting our final down there, there was a Dominican, a local guy there in the final. He ended up finishing second, getting the Olympic quota place. But every time he'd hit a target, everybody'd start screaming and cheering and hollering. Well, guess who got to follow him?
you
Me.
did.
You.
So he went into the final in sixth place, and
Got second.
yeah, so he ended up second. So that kind of environment, I always feel like fuels me and helps me focus a little better.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk about that for a second, Derrick. I want to talk about the feeling that you had going into your first Olympics. I'm feeling confident that you're probably going to head to another one. But that being said, no one we've ever had on the show has been to the Olympics. So what did that feel like, and how did that feel being a shotgun shooter who shot your whole life and made the highest realm of achievement just getting to go?
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It was the most satisfying achievement I've ever had in my shooting career, making that first Olympic Games. And at that time, I'd have told you it was the hardest thing I'd ever done with a shotgun too.
Yeah.
Since then, I would say winning that world championship might have been the hardest, but because not anybody can go to that world championships, you have to earn the right to
Yep.
represent your country. So every country's sending their best three. So it's a pretty tough one to win, but it's extremely gratifying. There's no better feeling than getting to represent your country, and when you get to stand on top of the podium while they play the national anthem, it makes your knees wiggle and you start get teary eyed, and you really can't describe it. It's an incredible feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can only dream, and other shooters can only dream of something like that, because we shoot our sport, and obviously our American sport, American trap. If you don't dip your toes into the water of international, it's something you never really get a chance for. And I think there's a lot of great shooters in every sport: sporting clays, skeet, trap, bunker, right? And some people just never try something, and because of that reason, they never get an opportunity. I mean, you came to the MTA and shot the Grand in 2020 and performed at, I would say the highest level of the shoot, right there with a bunch of guys that are, that shoot trap all the time. And you're not even really a trap shooter, right? So you just shoot it, but you shot it very, very well. And I wonder, I wonder how many hidden stars of talent are out there, maybe younger kids that are listening to our show that have never shot a bunker target and might do really well at it.
Right. So that's in 2020 when COVID was going on, because the games got postponed. That was something I wanted to look at, because there was always the argument of, well, which group of shooters is best, who's better. And so I wanted to go out and put my money where my mouth was and just shoot everything and show that it could be done. Part of it was, you see all of these kids groups, they focus on trap, or they focus on skeet, or they focus solely on sporting clays. And I think we lose shooters because they get so focused on one game.
Yep.
I wanted to show them that you didn't have to focus on one. You could go shoot them all, be successful at them all, and have a good time doing it. That was kind of my whole focus that year. Was I wanted to prove that you didn't have to be a one-trick pony to be really good at something.
Hello, Trap Talk listeners. Today's episode is brought to you by Wenig Custom Gun Stocks.
That being said, a custom gun stock is going to elevate your game to get the same fit every single time.
And I can attest to that. I broke hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hundreds with my Wenig Custom Gun Stock.
I haven't broke hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, Rick, but I did break 100 from the 27 within 7 days of getting my stock, and broke 2 more that year and loved it.
Here, this is
Okay. You would take it or me?
We'd like to thank Wenig Custom Gun Stocks for supporting Trap Talk.
That being said, everyone knows.
Winners shoot Wenig.
Are we doing the import?
And I've known you since you were a little kid, and I say a little kid, but you are a lot younger than I am. But it is, you point a shotgun better than about anybody in the world at all the disciplines. I remember I shot at the world all around in 18, and you won that. Richard Falls was there, and I know Richard. Richard's one of the best shooters in the world.
Yeah,
He's won 2 Olympic medals or one.
just one.
Okay, 1 gold medal.
Yeah,
Which is a big deal, but and like I said, going back, I shot the bunker, so I understand it's a whole different world. But
it is.
that's why I try to tell kids, and I'm a college coach, shooting all the disciplines. Go shoot everything. I love it when, I used to shoot Sporting Clays Nationals for 12 or 13 years in a row. Now they got the Nevada State shoot on top of it. Nevada State shoot is awesome. Shoot pays pretty well,
Yeah,
so I'm going to Nevada. But,
I don't blame you.
Chambers, our sponsor of all three of us. He does all of our stocks. Bobby's always said when sporting guys come in and say, trap's easy. And he's like, I'll bet you $1,000 you can't stand on the 27 and average 93 or whatever. And these guys go, well, that's not hard. Well, each discipline has its own. And that's what I've always said. You have guys that can shoot just those disciplines. Then you have guys that can shoot everything. Where
Like Derrick, he can shoot everything.
Well, but Derrick does it at a high level.
Correct. Which I think that's the rarity right there, is that he does it at such a high level everywhere you go. So
one thing I was fortunate, kind of the way I grew up in my career of shooting, is I've been around a lot of good shooters in all disciplines. When I was at college, I went out to Rob Taylor's place and kind of watched him shoot trap. So I kind of learned the approach to shooting ATA at a high level. When I was at Lindenwood, we had a couple really good American skeet shooters, so I kind of learned the ins and outs of how a really good American skeet shooter goes about it. And then, of course, bunker, I worked with Lance Bade on that, and he's as good as anybody from the U.S. to ever do it. So,
absolutely.
I learned how to really approach the game from a high level there. And, of course, sporting clays, I'm always watching the top guys shoot, trying to pick up bits and pieces here and there. But I feel like that's what's allowed me to be successful is I didn't just go shoot those games. I was around enough people to see it done the right way to win at that game, to help me come up with my own game plan, to slightly modified based on how I see and move a gun.
yeah,
But so gave me that basic approach to be successful in those individual games.
I need to ask this question because it's in my mind right now. With transitioning each game, do you have a similar style, like in learning those things? Like, do you shoot skeet one way and sporting clays one way and trap one way, or is it all very similar? Or, how do you keep those compartmentalized in your mind from game to game to game?
All of the above. Some days it works better than others, but like right now, I would say my sporting game has really suffered because the last 3 years I've put a lot into making this next Olympic team. And so I've really basically, when I got home from Tokyo, I more or less scrapped 90% of what I was doing in bunker and built a new game from the ground up.
Okay.
And I feel like that's why it forced me to work really hard at it. And that's why I got to where I was able to win that world championship. But, I think to do something to that level, you do have to kind of focus on it somewhat, and other areas are going to suffer. But like in 2020, I was more or less just taking bits and pieces and carrying it over to every game.
I see.
The one thing that I've always stood on is no matter what I'm shooting, my gun doesn't move until I see the target. And I feel like that's what allows me to transition game to game as much as anything. Yeah, I might not have the greatest hold point, but if I don't move till I see the target, at least I know where it's going. It gives me a chance.
And going into that, Derrick, I remember when the PSSA was around, the Professional Sporting Clays Association, okay, and watching you in the finals and shooting some of those events, being there. And I remember back, I think it was at Big Red Oak in Gay, Georgia, where you shot. And the way the course was set up, Zach, one of the targets came out of the trees, and most people waited, and Derrick would call pull and go and just shoot, and then the target would run into the shot, and everybody's like, "What the heck?" And I'm like, "Well, he's a pretty good gun pointer."
Well, so that was the one that I think was one of my single most great moments in shooting. Was I was shooting against Gavin,
Yep.
and we got in the speed round, and I was way ahead of the time on the release of the targets. And so I'm set up fully loaded on the 7, and I whacked 2 at it really fast. And it was a long flight path target. And I grabbed a shell, and the gun caught under my shoulder, and I broke it as it curled behind the trees off to the side of the field with the 3rd shot. And at first, Scotty, who was calling it, wasn't going to give it to me, but nobody was going to let that not happen.
I know.
And that was that was being Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes started playing NFL football.
Yeah, you just slung it and it happened and it worked. It looked real cool.
I was laid out full parallel to the ground and just chunked it, and it worked.
But that's the one thing is you are in watching you shoot. Like I said, I watched you shoot in the world all around. All the disciplines in the shoot off, different targets and everything, and you just point the target. You whatever it's doing, faster, slower, whatever. But that is one of the things is. One, your head's on the gun when you're pulling the trigger 99% of the time. So that helps.
When I'm shooting well, it's on the gun.
Yeah, when you're shooting well, that's with all of us, So, but it is fun to watch and, see that you transitioned from shooting just sporting to shooting bunker and then took it serious because that's what you have to do, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to compete at the highest level, I could understand how the other games are going to suffer a little bit when you're transitioning to this game. I mean, that makes sense to me completely. I guess talking a little bit more about technical so we can maybe give some tips back to our trap shooting listeners. What are you doing on a bunker field? I mean, are you really making sure you're pivoting from the hips, the waist, the lower body? I mean, are you a high gun hold point shooter? Just kind of walk us through what you're doing and your rationale on a bunker field.
So I hold just a little bit above the mark. Not a lot. If you take a federal paper and you hold it up, extend your arm all the way out and set the brass on the mark about where the top of the brass is, that's about where my gun's hold point is.
So very low.
And I'm looking, and then I'm looking just above my bead. And I try and pick a spot to set my eyes on and wait for the flash of the target to take my eyes in a direction.
So you say you look above your bead. How much? I mean, the width of a quarter high, a half quarter high. I mean, does it depend on the light of the day or how high are you looking?
So depends on the light of the day, what kind of background there is. Generally the better contrast I have on the range, the bigger that gap's going to be a little bit. But I still probably don't ever get more than maybe 1/8 of an inch above my bead.
Above your bead.
Okay.
Now, how far out are you looking?
Like you take there in Tucson where you got that ramp.
Yep.
My eyes are looking 2/3 of the way up that ramp.
Okay.
And then, my bead's halfway up the ramp.
I see.
You're not letting your eyes get too far out.
No, I'm a firm believer that a lot of guys get too much separation in their gun and their eyes, and so your gun then has to come to your eyes before it can go to the target.
I see.
So I never want that type. And that actually happened to me this last weekend in the final down there in the Dominican. I started off with the same gap that I'd shot all of qualification with, and for whatever reason, the lighting change was causing my gun to come up to my eyes before it'd go after the target. Well, I missed my 3rd, 4th, and 5th target of the final.
I saw that. I was like,
and
yeah,
so
I looked at the
to
score.
correct that, I just brought my gun up and I started staring through my bead at my hold point spot out at a distance. And from there on, I broke the last 45.
Well, it sounds like you made the right correction.
Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that time it worked.
It was like the plane was nose diving down to the ground, swirling, and then last second you propped it back up into the air, baby. So, I like that.
I I have to admit, I have kind of made a habit of missing 3 in a row, though. In 2022 at the World Championships, I was 22 straight in the first half of the final, and missed my last 3 of that half of the final to end up in a sudden death shoot-off to move on to the medal round and win the Olympic quota. So I have made a history of missing 3 in a row. But
With that do you have I always say in trap, you have your subconscious mind, which is the devil, and the conscious mind, which is the angel. So like, is that little devil, did you name him Gary? Is that what, for Gary Fitzgerald? You can have him
no,
as a little devil.
Gary's got his own. He's the he's like the little leprechaun in what was that cartoon? That's Gary.
That's Gary.
Yeah.
Well, shoot the first one and then loop to the second one and drive through it. Oh, just like that.
Great shot. Shot 2. Great shot.
We're just trying to help every shooter out there, no matter if you're an expert or a beginner, and this product will take your game to the next level.
Works for any of the disciplines. As long as it can find a clay in the image, it will figure out how it's moving and how that shot pattern is going.
Yeah. Now, in that shot, I intentionally shot high, which is most people do.
That's what you did.
Yep. So outside the pattern. Now, what's it say for the correction of that?
1 foot.
Yep, that'd be correct. Now, in this one, I will smoke the target.
If people want to purchase this unit, what's the best way to do it? I mean, is it through your guys' website? Is there a phone number to call, or what's that situation?
Yeah, go to our website, takeaimtech.com, and an online store. We have inventory. We'll ship usually within 24 hours.
Huge thank you to Jim and Bob at Take Aim Tech for supporting Trap Talk.
That's good with your hole points. Now, let's go to, that's international. Now, when you shoot trap, are you down on the house?
Actually, no, I hold up a little bit.
Do you hold up a little bit?
Yeah, I kind of use a very similar approach to bunker. I hold up a little bit. I used to hold fairly high and look down through the gun when I shot ATA, especially when I was in college and stuff. But now that I don't shoot much of it, I kind of just use how I approach bunker.
Now, what about skeet? Is that the same?
Skeet, I treat it just like I do sporting clays. I start with the gun just out of the pocket, and then when I see the bird, I make a move and try and connect with it, just like I would on a sporting clays target.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will tell you this: that blows American skeet shooters' minds when you're in the shoot-off stadium at the World Championship and you're not pre-mounting. They don't know how to handle that.
They're like, what the hell's going on here? Hey, that's already an advantage. It messes up the head a little bit.
I remember watching, Sean Dillery shoot at the World Skeet Shoot, and he shoots everything like international at the American Skeet. He's shooting, people are like, and he would, he'd break 100 and they're like, what the heck? So,
I didn't go that extreme, but I was, just out of the pocket. I mean, for anybody that's watched me shoot sporting clays, I don't ever pre-mount. The only time I get close to a pre-mount is I'm mounting the gun, as I call pull, on a fast going away target.
So like why is that? Why is that, Derrick? Why do you like to not pre-mount when you're able to?
So I feel like for me, if I'm for whatever reason, if I'm standing on a trap field, I have no problem pre-mounting. But you give me the exact same target standing at a sporting clay station, I feel like I will see the flash of the target and pull the trigger without ever moving the gun. And that gun mount gets my gun moving with the target. And I think that comes from knowing where the target's going. Whereas in trap, you've got the variation of not knowing exactly which way that target's going.
I see.
So that's where I would put it.
I see.
Makes sense.
I've always thought to myself, like, I don't shoot sporting near as well as anyone else on the show today. But that being said, mount the gun, look for the target and go. But then sometimes you're so narrow with your field of vision when you're mounted versus when you're unmounted. You can kind of see everything come together and match speed a little bit
Right.
better. But
Well, so and some of my sporting clays game comes back from they didn't put in a rule that you could pre-mount until 97. So
Yeah.
I had to learn the game starting with a dismounted shotgun.
I see.
Yep.
And so that's where my game started, and it's just kind of carried on ever since.
So you talked a little bit about your hold points in bunker. You talked a little bit about your eye positions. You said when we transfer to trap, you're holding a little bit higher, maybe a couple feet over the house, but still looking above the gun, still rotating. Not many changes.
So I would say on ATA, I'm holding about where most people break their first targeted doubles.
Okay.
A good double shooter, that's probably about where I'm holding my gun.
So
Well, we're down
maybe,
on
Yeah, but where you break it at,
Oh,
right?
okay.
yeah, 5 to 7 feet up, somewhere in that zone.
Yeah, maybe not quite that high, 3 feet.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Yeah, so
definitely
you're
low
talking
enough where
about
I can shoot it
where
before
Mitchell
it
Lovelace
peaks.
breaks his doubles target, then not where me and
Yeah.
Ricky break ours.
I'm
Yeah.
talking Joe Tarnago.
That's funny. So let's get into a little bit about mental game. You've obviously won and been in a bunch of high pressure situations. Are there things you're doing off the field that are giving you an edge? And if so, what are those things?
Talking with guys like you, trying to be a real person. I try not to let myself get closed in and secluded. I try and welcome friendly environments as much as I can. And I feel like all of that keeps you in a point where you can step out on the field and focus even with all the distractions.
I
Yeah.
see. That's
Well,
great advice.
now, do you do, looking back at the Olympics, because that's the biggest of them all. Let's,
Right.
I've shot off for, stuff at the Grand and, with some of the best shooters that have ever fired a shotgun, going back to when Leo Harrison was alive, Frank Hoppy, my old coach and stuff. But the Olympics, that's a whole another level. When you went to the games, I mean, and shooting each day, was it just kind of like an awe situation, or was
There,
it?
there was Yeah, so there was definitely some of that.
Yeah,
I think the hardest part to deal with was the fact that there wasn't going to be another one the next year that you could just go to. Like
yeah,
it was going to be a 4-year process, and you'd have to
yeah,
requalify and make the team again if you wanted to go again. So I think the finite amount of opportunities that you can have for an Olympic Games creates just an exponential amount of pressure when you get into those situations. And you guys know when you get into those situations, it is very easy for your mind to wander and get distracted by any of the smallest little things.
yep.
And so that's something you have to learn to deal with. And the only way you can do that is put yourself in that situation more times.
More time.
Yeah, I
Well,
think failing is a big thing there, right? Like because you get there the
Right.
first time and sometimes you fail, second time you fail, but it's the amount of times that you get there
Right.
that
Yeah.
teaches you the lessons in life. And I think so many people are so concerned with they get there and they mess it up and then they're so disappointed in themselves. Like no, that's part of it, right? Like it doesn't always like I'm sure what happened in the last Olympics for you is going to help you learn and grow in all your other games moving forward in your life. Probably helped you just win this tournament that you just won.
Yeah, absolutely it did. When I was there in Tokyo, it showed me the flaws in my game. It showed me where I was screwing up, and getting to watch the best of the best shoot it and how they approach the game. And I'm pretty fortunate. The guys shooting the game right now are all pretty genuinely good people.
yeah,
And I talked with a couple of guys from Britain that have been shooting really good, and talked with like David Kastelecki from the Czech Republic, who's been good for
a
the
while.
last 20 years. I think he's
Yeah,
won 2 Olympic medals. He's pretty good. But they were willing to let me pick their brain and just kind of get their mental approach, not necessarily mental approach, but their philosophy on how they approach the game. and that helped me learn a lot.
So with that, Derrick, what do you do mentally, in bunker? I mean, are you having a quiet mind? Are you, just self analyzing? What's going on?
So I will try and always self-analyze what happened on that target for the first 5 or 8 seconds while the guy after me shooting, and
Yep.
then after that, I get into my routine to get ready for my target, which starts 2 or 3 shooters before I'm up, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my eyes out so they can stay focused at a longer distance, and then so I'm running my routine where when the guy before me shooting, I'm bringing my eyes into my hold point, and then I mount the gun and bring it down real slow to my hold point and get my eyes set. And a lot of guys think I hold the gun there for a really long time after I mount, and I do compared to most people. But that whole time, all I'm thinking about is letting my eyes quiet and seeing the target.
And when
And
you're ready, you call pull.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
and that's something that we haven't really talked about on the show, but I know it's written about in a lot of sports books. Is quiet eye theory. I mean, have you studied that at all, or has anyone really talked with you at the Olympic level, those coaches, about the difference between settling your eyes, quiet eye versus not quiet eye?
No, I haven't really had too many conversations. A couple guys in sporting clays I've had conversations with about that. There was a guy for a while. You guys remember the strobe glasses?
Yeah.
Um, the doctor that kind of invented those. I was
Yep.
fortunate. I got to have 2 or 3 really good conversations with him, and he confirmed a lot of stuff that I felt like happened, but I had no scientific proof. Because I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go
Hey,
do
trust me, I don't think anyone's
a
going to
conspiracy.
question that.
But
Yeah.
that he talked me through some stuff that really helped me understand how eyes work, and that helped. And then a good friend of mine, Ryan Holmes, I've had several conversations with him, and he studies all that. He's
Yep.
reading books all the time about how all that stuff works. And so we've had some good conversations that I feel like I've learned a lot from.
Yeah. Zach
But
talked quite a bit with Ryan when we were in Dubai. He was
yeah,
over there.
he's
No, and
really,
he's very,
really
very,
good.
very knowledgeable. And there's I break it down in my mind in doing all these podcasts with Rick and just talking with shooters, because I'm like you, Derrick. I like to talk with other shooters that are great at whatever it is they do and share secrets. And when I met Ryan, first thing I wanted to do was just kind of talk to him about it, because I'm like interested in absorbing. And what I found is there's two groups of shooters. There's your thinkers who like want to think and really go through everything, and I find myself in that category where I'm always trying to analyze and overanalyze everything. And then there's your your natural pointers, if you will, or your guys that might think about that stuff lightly, but at the end of the day they're performing at a much higher level by just
Right.
not focusing on all that crap and just letting their natural talent kind of shine through. And it's and arguably most of the time those two shooters get together and become friends, because it's
Yeah.
like, okay,
So
you got the one guy that's like thinking about everything, and you got the one guy that's just like, just hit the damn target, and it's like, it works.
So I feel like I've actually been both of those guys at different points in my career. When I was young, I couldn't have told you how or why I did anything to break targets. I just went out and I had good days and I had bad days. And then when I kind of started teaching, it helped me understand better what I needed to do to approach and become a more consistent competitor. And so I began to start thinking about stuff, and then I took that too far and got to where I was thinking way too much about stuff, which is kind of where I was going into Tokyo. I was really focused on the mechanical aspect of being a bunker shooter, focusing on stance, gun mount, that kind of stuff. And I got away from what really got me to a really high level, and that was my eyes
Breaking
and
the
my
target.
instincts. And so the biggest change I made when I got home from Tokyo was I worked on changing my mindset when I walk out onto a field.
Okay.
Instead of worried about the mechanics, you do all that in practice. You practice the mechanics.
Yep.
And when you're practicing mechanics, you can't worry about score. You can't worry about hits and misses. You have to worry about, did I execute those mechanics properly? Well, then when you get into competition, the only way you can execute your mechanics and your game plan properly is if you get your eyes on the target correctly and look at the target correctly, and then give yourself time to get there and break it. And all of the mechanics and your game plan or approach to breaking a target, those all happen subconsciously if you allow them to happen because you've practiced them.
Yep. That is good advice for all our listeners out there, because it's the same way when I teach people. I don't worry about what their score is. I'm wanting to make sure their mechanics fundamentals are right, and then everything comes afterwards.
In 2023 here, we have done 37 state shoots, 7 of the 11 satellite grants. And
We're almost there.
So most of
we now have, I think it's 241, 242 clubs across the country using our system.
If a club was wanting to use you, do you have like a base entry level pricing or packages that you advertise, or is it based on the size of the shoots, Greg?
Our base level price is $0. Our complete package system, the whole enchilada, is $0.
$0 is a good price.
It's a good price.
The premium members do not pay a pre-squad fee, ever.
Yeah.
For all year.
All year.
Can I buy a lifetime membership?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Gotta be
say.
your first
is
lifetime
there,
member.
is there a
I
5
want to
year?
be number one. Zach,
We want lifetime memberships for me and Ricky.
So just, you got an Olympic athlete here, which I say that with praise because I know a lot of shooters. I've been doing this a long time, and a lot of shooters are like, yeah, I'm on the Olympic team. I'm like, you didn't go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and that's one of the big things. Technically, you're not an Olympic athlete unless you go to the Olympics.
Yeah. You can say, oh, I shoot Olympic trap. But
Exactly.
Don't be telling people you're an Olympian.
Exactly.
That is kind of a pet peeve I
that's a
have.
little different, right?
Yeah, it is. And, I always kind of held the Olympic stuff in a higher regard, but after being there, it totally changed my thought process on the whole thing. And it's such a hard accomplishment to achieve that anybody that tries to take away from that and claim something they haven't done is very selfish.
Yeah, because you look at the shooters that we have in the U.S. I mean, especially, one of your coaches, Lance Bate. I've known Lance since I was a kid. He won the silver medal or the bronze medal, excuse me. And what was
he lost to Lakatos.
Yeah, Lakatos. 96
Atlanta.
Olympics. And I had quit shooting bunker about 92 or 3. But I knew all them guys. Steve Poles was on the, national team. Lance Bade, Lakatos, Rocco Berra. All the John Opio, all these guys that could break. A lot of them were ATA shooters, and got into it. But at the time, also you got like Kim Rohde, who has won multiple Olympics. Vinnie Hancock. These guys have dominated, guys and girls have dominated the sport of international skeet, and stuff. And and I've always held it that, hey, that's a whole different level of what you're doing. But for you to go over there and to shoot and absorb it, and now hopefully, after next week's, qualification, you'll be able to go back and dominate at Paris.
All of us at Trap Talk and all our listeners, we're Team Derrick Mein, so we're going to be voting you on for sure.
I need all the cheering I can get.
I think to unpack that statement about training a little further, you talked about focusing on the mechanics, which so crucial, and then going to the tournament and letting your eyes and instincts. I wrote that down on my own pad because I'm going to use that, eyes and instincts, and
great.
It's so important, yet people don't. They're at the tournament and they're still thinking about, okay, am I mounting the gun correctly? Am I moving with my body correctly? Am I doing that? And all of that energy that you're putting onto those things is not allowing you to do the one most important thing, which is just see the damn bird, right?
Right. And, so the guy that really helped me get to that state of mind was Jay Waldron, national coach. I've had a lot of conversations with Jay sitting around kind of looking back in the evenings, looking back at the day of shooting and competing. And he always kept going back to, well, you just got to have the right mindset. And he would talk about his mindset was when he was shooting, he said, you had to average 24 and a half. So if you shot a 24, you had to back it up with 25. And if you shot a 23, well, then you had to back it up with two 25s. If you wanted to have a chance to be in the final, be in the game to win a medal. And he competed in the 92 Olympic Games. I think he finished fifth. But, he's the one that really helped unlock that for me.
That's awesome that you had someone in your life that helped you advance. And I think all of us are looking for people in our lives that we can take some good information from, that we can, maybe grow and experience something with. And I think a lot of listeners of our show are listening to this show because they want to advance themselves too. And maybe they don't have Derrick Mein a couple hours away from their house, or Ricky Marshall a couple ways from their house, and we can open it up where people can listen from all over.
Don't forget the Zach Nannini Eyes and Instincts school of thought.
Eyes and Instincts, baby. I mean,
you're gonna be teaching that the rest of the year.
At the Southern Grand, I guarantee that's all I'm going to hear. Eyes and instincts.
Hey, you just imagine if I'd had that Eyes and Instincts back in 2020, maybe we wouldn't even have to shoot off. It'd have been dialed in, baby. That's a good one.
I don't think you were going to beat Dakin. I don't think you were going to beat Dakin.
You're right. I can't. It's sad when you win second at the Grand. You're right behind the ring, but then the guy that beats you is only 6 targets ahead. You're like, oh, that's a row of shells plus one.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, the 4x4, that hurts people. If only he had to go to school or something that week, maybe it could have been my time.
If it would have been for high overall, you wouldn't have stood a chance.
Oh yeah, I'd have given you everything I had. I promise you that. But Derrick, is there any maybe 1, 2, or 3 tips that you'd like to share with the listeners? Maybe most important things that they could focus on to advance in any shotgun game.
I think the first one is perspective. You have to understand where you're at in your game and what you want to get out of the game. Are you wanting to be one of the greats? Or are you wanting to do it because you just enjoy shooting? Are you, you have to understand where you're at, and you have to be honest with yourself from that aspect. And the other one is you always have to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're not going to perform well.
That's right.
And, I especially emphasize that to the kids. I think we have such an opportunity with our youth shooting programs to help continue our sport for a really long time. Yes. But I think a lot of times the wrong message gets sent to the kids, and they get not necessarily pushed too hard, but they kind of get burnt out sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think you really got to make sure the kids are having a good time.
I see that because sometimes the parents want the kids to succeed more than the kids want to succeed. And I think the one thing I can give to my parents, they weren't, professional coaches or had any insight on what to do or anything like that. But the one thing they did really well was they got out of the way and they just let me shoot. They just gave me some shells, gave me a bag, and I'd go shoot and I'd go figure it out on my own. And I feel like that was the best teacher for me, is not having someone follow me around every single box and tell me what I'm doing wrong or right. For me, now I'm sure that works for some kids, need a little bit more direction maybe, but for me, I wanted it more than they wanted it for me. And when the shooter wants it more than anyone else, that's when it's going to step up. Right.
Yeah. And my parents did the same thing with me. If I wanted to go shoot, they made it happen, but they didn't force me to go shoot. They didn't force me to go practice. It was my choice. And there were times I gave up shooting to go play baseball or do other stuff, go fishing.
That's what we're calling it, fishing and baseball.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it was for me. I was sports oriented.
Yeah.
Well, and you're fortunate, Derrick, that your dad, Rick Mein, I mean, he's one of the best ZZ shooters in the world. Let's see. every discipline he shoots at a high level. He does have.
He holds an ATA record.
I know. Tell our listeners.
So my dad is the only person in ATA history to at any point in their career have 100% average from the 27-yard line.
He just went out.
You're trying to figure out how that happened. He went to the Grand. He got penalized to 25-yard line. He earned his 2 yards by the very last handicap event that week at the Grand. And so he went a month later to the Kansas Fall Handicap. And the first handicap event there was his first registered targets from the 27-yard line, and he broke 100 straight.
Yep.
And he just ain't been back.
Yeah, he's tried a couple times because he wants the 200 singles. He's run the doubles and he's run the handicap, but he's never run 200 singles.
Oh, he's 200. You know what? You get him in for a long I just have to keep him to get his head on the gun all the time, I know
a guy that can help him break 200 singles. Ricky might be able to, although, he hasn't been winning the singles lately, but he's been winning everything else. So, hey, it is what it is.
I would shoot a 198 in the singles every time if that meant I was going to run the other 200.
That's exactly. I'm like, you can have the single.
Pays a little bit better. You get to go to bed earlier. No long shoot off. Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not a bad strategy.
Yeah, there's no money in singles. So
no, very rarely. There's a couple shoots where if you win them outright, you can make a little bit of money. But otherwise, no. It is one of those things. So, and that's one of the things with you, Derrick. Having your dad in your corner, because like I said, I've known your dad a long time, and he's there for you, but he's not on you like each trap. Yeah. And that is, you got to have a great support group, and that's one thing with your wife. I mean.
Oh, yeah. She's definitely the one that makes all this possible. I couldn't do it.
It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of time away. That's for sure. So
but besides that, she encourages me. She pushes me to be better. She's the reason that I've been able to do what I have because she forces me to be better.
Yeah. Well, and you're a little different shooting the Olympic Games, the international, we'll say, bunker competitions are across the world where, I'm gone. I might be gone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks teaching, but I'm in the United States. You're in a whole nother country.
Yeah, I'm 8 hours ahead usually.
Yeah, you got that passport tattooed all over, right? All different places you've been to.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't have to get a extender on it before it's up to be renewed here in 2 years.
Yeah, you get a couple more pages in that thing, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you were here today with us. The wealth of information. Before we get out of here, is there any other people that you'd like to thank other than your family? I know you thank them, but any sponsors or anything you want to make a shout out to?
Yeah, I got to thank Kohler and Federal, Promatic, Elite Shotguns. They've taken good care of me. I just signed on with Randolph Ranger. So that's a new partnership I have going for this year. And then I work with Ultimate Shooting Accessories in Castellani, and then Pure Gold Chokes.
Well, that's awesome. I'm sure they're all very, very proud to have you as their brand ambassador because you handle yourself on and off the range very, very well. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm sure after you go to the Olympics and you bring home some jewelry for us, we're going to need to have you on again and do a recap of that. So
I'm all about it.
So you heard it here first, folks. He's going to come back and do an interview after he gets that jewelry. So we're proud of you, and we appreciate everyone for tuning in this Friday.
Yep. Thanks, Derrick.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And the Trap Talk podcast is brought to you in part by
RM Shooting Clinics. Have Ricky take your game to the next level. If you want to shoot hundreds, give Ricky a call today. Zach Nannini Financial. We believe in putting people first.